You've seen these figures at sneaker stores, gallery gift shops, and the backgrounds of famous streamers. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why these $1,000 figurines are a sign of the end of our world. All right, we're at the biggest art gallery in Toronto, and there is a KAWS exhibition going on. So we're gonna sneak a camera in and talk to some people, really get a perspective on what this is all about. What does art look like at the end of an era? Is it morose, melancholy, pregnant with meaning and imagery of the myths, mistakes, and triumphs of a society whose sun is setting? Wrong! It's actually none of these things. Rather, art at the end of history is usually devoid of meaning. A hollow shell whose substance has been aborted and replaced with speculation, hype, and a great return on investment. As a society begins to rot, so does its art. And no artist is more emblematic of this than KAWS, a pop culture icon whose work you are more likely to see in a gallery gift shop than in the gallery itself. What's more surprising is that not only has this process happened before, but what it means for us in 2023. When the elites begin to atomize, culture becomes fractured, and the average person can't afford a home, artists like KAWS are a sign of the times. But who is KAWS? Born Brian Donnelly in 1974, KAWS is an American artist and designer. He gained recognition as a street graffiti artist on the streets of New York City, often utilizing iconic cartoon characters such as Mickey Mouse. KAWS is known for his distinctive X eyes motif and his exploration of themes related to consumerism and popular culture. His works encompass a range of mediums including paintings, sculpture, and limited edition collectibles. KAWS figurine, known as the Companion, was released in Tokyo in 1999, and since then has been re-released countless times. Here they are on StockX for $1,000, and everybody knows that StockX is the best place to buy art. But before we continue on the magic of KAWS, we have to go back in time to gain some important context on these cute little guys. Look at them. They're so adorable. Look at this little guy. He looks like he's made of cake. I'm gonna cut him open. He's gonna be full of cake. Our journey of decadence and decay starts where all stories about Western culture start. 9/11. Just kidding. It's the French Revolution, bitch.
Hello, welcome.
How's it going?
Hi, good. How are you guys?
What do you think? You a big fan of KAWS? Started making like 6 figures this year, and I've spent like 20K on KAWS statues on StockX. It's crazy. Can't stop buying them. It's the early 1700s, and this is King Louis XIV of France. Now, he wasn't always the king of France. If you can believe it, his father, King Louis XIII of France, was the king before him. Louis XIV would accompany his father on hunting trips to an area outside of Paris known as Versailles, and they would often stay at a little chateau when he went there. Old 14th liked this area so much that when he became king, he turned the chateau into a palace, the Palace of Versailles. During his lifetime, Mr. 14th would expand the palace extensively and decorated it in the popular Baroque art style of the time. He eventually made the palace so big he moved the entirety of the French court and aristocracy to live in the palace with him until he died of gangrene in 1715. That's the one where your limbs rot off and like black spots appear. It's an old-timey illness. Don't worry about it. After his death, the aristocracy packed their bags and they walked back to their measly little stupid homes, no longer living in a beautiful, extensive Baroque palace. And they had all this money and all this free time, and they thought, my home is boring as I can't impress bitches with this house. The Baroque style just didn't fit, and they wanted something a bit more intimate and playful for their homes, for their spaces. Enter the next most famous art style in France after Baroque, Rococo. The fun thing about Rococo is it has literally no depth. It's a nothing art movement. It means nothing. It's just decoration. There's as much meaning behind Rococo as there is to like Fortnite costumes. Just seashells and like whimsical, dubious little creatures playing in the forest. Rich guys are like, hey artists, get over here. Can you paint my wife playing in a field, please? But something is brewing in France. Not everyone gets to play in fields. Most people live in alleyways and can't read, and they're starting to catch on. So much so, they're gonna revolt over it, overthrow the government, and cut off all their heads. It's the first French Revolution of 1789. Now, every great movement has art behind it. For the French Revolution, Rococo just wasn't gonna cut it. It was this bad and bougie. This is a bad and bougie style. We need something with substance. We need something that inspires you to kill yourself as an act of revolution. Enter Jacques-Louis David. Policemen swear to God, I'm stepping on a stone. I know my friends and I might just have to go home. If you look under your bed, you know what I said. On the go, turn the page, Oh my god, it's a little dark age. Jacques-Louis David painted in a style known as neoclassicism. And if Rococo is a children's picture book, then neoclassicism is the f***ing Bible. Take one of his most famous works, The Death of Socrates. Here we have Socrates receiving his complimentary cup of poison after being sentenced to death for corrupting the youth. He's explaining to his disciples that they need not fear for him because the soul lives on internally, and that he is proud to die from a justice system that worked effectively. So democracy has sealed his fate and he is okay with that. Or this painting, The Death of Marat, a French revolutionary who was assassinated in his bathtub. Now, why is Marat in a bathtub? Because Marat had a skin condition that caused him to break out into open wounds if he wasn't wet 24/7. My man Marat was so important, he had to be assassinated. And he did all of this while looking like a ghoul from Fallout. And you can't even do your dishes. Like I said before, Jacques-Louis David's work and all the other neoclassicist artists inspired many French revolutionaries. And what I'm getting at here is this juxtaposition. At the end of the French Empire, at the end of that era, during a restructuring of society, you have an elitist art movement that existed just to be neat, in contrast to a populist commoner art movement that was so rich and in-depth, the paintings can be considered works of philosophy. Now, this juxtaposition, this contrast, this brings us forward to KAWS. Just kidding, it brings us to Weimar, Germany. You a big KAWS fan? I'm trying to figure out what this all means.
I don't really know what it's all about either. I know it's very popular right now. It's one of our most popular exhibits, but I'm not really sure what the whole story is behind it.
Weimar, Germany is like a society speed run. The Weimar Republic begins in 1919 after the end of World War I. And Germany was exhausted, bombed this shit, broke, and they were getting sued and by like every European nation. And now Weimar, Germany figured it out for a bit. After they paid off all their debts, their currency basically zeroed out and started from scratch. Weimar had a brief period of prosperity in the mid-1920s. This came to an end when the Western world entered the Great Depression in 1929. Weimar, Germany met its fate in 1933. Some obscure Austrian-born politician, Adolf something, anyway, forget about him. All that matters is that the Weimar Republic lasted 14 years. And you're thinking, wow, such an extreme and bipolar era must have produced art that was just as radical. Art that really captures and represents the highs and the lows of a society who was on the event horizon, who was on the edge of glory for every year it existed. Wrong again, numbnuts. It was f***ing furniture. The Bauhaus School started in 1919 in the city of Weimar, and it aimed to completely mix form and function with furniture, with the goal of making furniture that would be mass-produced. The school's founder, Walter Gropius, said that the furniture, the art was apolitical, completely apolitical. For the love of God, don't worry, the furniture was not political. Now, although the goal was eventual mass production, Weimar, Germany didn't have the resources to pull that off at all, so all the school really produced was one-off pieces of avant-garde furniture. This may have eventually happened, but the school got closed in 1933 because of the Gestapo. Now, Bauhaus may be akin to Rococo in the sense that it's a meaningless, elitist art style, but exactly like the late 1700s, it doesn't tell the whole story. If neoclassicism was the antithesis of Rococo, then the distinct Weimar art movement, New Objectivity, is the antithesis to Bauhaus. Now, what is New Objectivity? The art movement New Objectivity was true social commentary on Weimar life during the 1920s, headed by artists like Otto Dix and George Grosz, both of whom were World War I veterans. George and Grosz depicted imagery of drug use, prostitution, theft, debauchery, things that were far more representative of Weimar life during the 1920s, as the hyperinflation and lack of jobs forced many people to a life of crime, and there was tons of World War I vets coming back and trying to resettle in a society that had gone decadent. Otto Dix even has a series of prints that depict the horrors of World War I, bodies of soldiers, rotting skulls, soldiers who had recently committed suicide in the trenches, all things he saw during his time serving Germany. And here we see the exact same juxtaposition we did with Rococo and neoclassicism during the end of an era and the beginning of a restructuring of a great reset of German society. Man, I thought you could buy them in the museum. I didn't realize you could buy them in the gift shop. That was so cool. Yeah, this is probably the only place in Toronto you could buy a KAWS t-shirt for retail. $50. You could probably take this and then just like walk down the street and sell it to a sneaker store and make a profit. At this point, you probably see what I'm getting at. You know, KAWS is decadent. KAWS is meaningless, decadent art. And, you know, Brian Donnelly even made an explicit post saying that his art was apolitical and that he never wants to upset anybody. Everyone knows that the best art is art that doesn't upset anybody. It never made anyone upset. That's what art's about, don't you know? Didn't you hear that? You may think you know what I'm getting at, but you actually have no idea what I'm getting at. You see, you can't put the blame on Cause. This isn't an anti-Cause video as an individual. Brian Donnelly probably isn't some money-hungry demon who set out to destroy creativity. He is a commercial artist who has found great success and popularity. That is the goal of every artist. Cause has seen massive commercial success precisely because his art is meaningless. It's the perfect candidate for a hotel lobby, a celebrity art collection, or to be traded on StockX. Most importantly, he's making other people money. And by the virtue of that, these meaningless f***ing vinyl figures of Mickey Mouse and f***ing Family Guy have been propelled to pop culture icon status. But, like the previous two examples, just focusing on Cause doesn't tell the whole story. It does not properly represent what life is like in the 2020s. So what's the missing piece? It's us. Me and you. On the internet. Hanging out, being friends. We are the grassroots movement trying to represent what life is like in the 2020s. What life is like during the end of the Western Empire, where the next 20 years look completely uncertain for us. How do we do this? We do this through memes. You won't find a crisis of meaning, nihilism, political extremism, existential dread when you look at Cause's artwork. But you will find that every time you open Instagram or TikTok. Cause and other meaningless pop artists are at odds with a grassroots commoner art style that's completely avant-garde and completely fresh. That's what memes are. And for better or for worse, memes are driving us to action the way that pop art can't. The same way Rococo couldn't during the French Revolution. These two opposing forces represent the end of the Western Empire and the beginning of something entirely new.
It's him! It's really him! Cause. Is Cause a sign of the apocalypse? Is he gonna cause World War III?
To answer the question on everyone's mind, should you put all your money into crypto and buy a f***ing bomb shelter next time you see a Cause figurine? Yes, that would be funny. Just remember that when you see a Cause figurine, you should recognize that something strange is happening. And when you see a meme about touching grass, you're not alone in thinking that something strange is happening. Things are about to get very, very interesting. And that's why, come on class, say it with me. Say it with me now, you should never kill yourself. Exactly, you guys are learning quick. Policeman swears to God, I'm going for his gun. I think my friends and I should probably go for his gun. I open up my page and what's it say? Oh my God, holy shit, holy f***, it's your little dark age.